the Nigerian aviation industry no doubt appears to be in dire straits. And for the sector's critical, and for a sector critical to the strategic growth and development of the nation's economy, it has never been in such a protracted strain for this long. Some have likened the situation to a ship on a voyage already struggling to survive internal challenges to avoid shipwreck, especially by the storm of COVID-19 pandemic. We must agree that the aviation sector globally was worse hit by the industry, by the pandemic. Of course, while other countries gave bailout funds in billions of dollars to their indigenous airlines to cushion the adverse effect of the pandemic and stage a comeback, the Nigerian government managed to give a paltry of 4 billion naira to the entire aviation sector. However, in a bid to revive the sector, the federal government, through the Ministry of Aviation, announced the commencement of the national carrier, known as the Nigerian Air. A development believed to establish a new, comfortable, reliable, and affordable travel between the two major Nigerian airports and boost government's revenue generation base. Well, let's get talking as Mr. Paul Alaje, who is a partner and senior economist at SPM Professionals, joins me live from our Abuja studios to give more insights into this development. Good afternoon, Mr. Alaje, and thank you so much for making it with us on the show today.
Good afternoon, and thank you so very much for having me.
Yes, the much talked about Nigerian Air seems to be coming on stream, if you are to follow the words of the Minister of Aviation, saying in about 6 to 8 weeks, it should become fully functional. Well, that's also with regards to the partnership with Ethiopian Air. In your thoughts, first, what do you make of this? Is it like Nigerian Air Carrier is truly going to be back and stronger and better?
My response to this will be that hopefully what government have said will be done. We are going to see it within 6 to 8 weeks as promised by the Honorable Minister. But more importantly, beyond just having a national carrier, why are we doing this? Are we doing this because we want to create jobs? Are we doing this because of pride or our pride as a nation? Or are we doing this because we understand that there is a major problem going on within the aviation sector, not just among the airlines, but more importantly, around the entire sector, because of global crisis in terms of challenges for Nigeria to get FX for those that are operating now. Again, affordability of Nigerians, ability to pay for the ticket as we have right now. So what is different that the Nigerian Air will be bringing to the mainstream? Again, 20 years ago, we saw a failure of this airline in Nigeria. What lessons were learned? What are we going to do differently? What will make Nigeria to do what the Emirates has done regarding the Emirates airline that started with few fleet of flight? Right now, they operate virtually every corner of the world, and they pride themselves as top among the operators of airlines around the globe today. Is it the same thing Nigeria is planning to do? Or can we see example of several airlines that operated for a few years within our country and they are unable to perform? Or is it a way to compete with private sector? What benefit will this be to our country? These are real issues we should talk about beyond the pride of having a national carrier.
Now, I'm seeing Ethiopian Airlines taking 49%, and Nigerian private investors, SACO, MRS, and other institutional investors taking 46%, and federal government is taking 5%. I'm worried around there because we've seen arguments saying that owning 5% in Nigerian Air, why not just own that in other airlines so that everyone will be on? Do you think this would give other airlines that level playing ground to compete with Nigerian Air?
Well, it depends on the approach of government. Competition is very much allowed within the aviation sector, and it's supposed to be a kind of competition without government influence. So if government will allow for that fair play, why not? If not, it's going to create more jobs, is allowable. But you see here, what government role should be how to solve the critical problem the critical issue in aviation sector. And if you ask me, if you want to book the two most popular airports to fly from maybe Abuja to Lagos or Lagos to Abuja, you should be ready to pay between 80 to 100,000 for economy flight. Why? The reason why we have to pay that much, because aviation business is not a domestic business. It's a global business, and it is done in dollars. So what was exchange rate 5 years ago and what was ticket 5 years ago? If you look at the causality between the devaluation of Naira and the cost of flight, you see that both of them are growing in the same direction. They are positively related. The real issue here is, how do we save the soul of Naira? Even if you have 10 national carriers and we are unable to protect domestic, the exchange rate locally by making available the fuel refined locally and made it available to our airlines, I am sorry, no matter what we do, it will still have tremendous impact on the market. And what is the market? Those who are flying from one point of Nigeria to the other. At least when we talk simply around the domestic flight, at least for now, that we have seen Nigeria Air may be starting with. So, but if that is not done, and we say we are having multiple airlines, then there is still a lot of challenge, because to maintain parts is very expensive. Why? Exchange rate is a factor. Crisis going on around the world is a factor. Again, we have many airlines that have packed. In the recent time, we have seen two. We can mention of Aero, and we can also mention the case with Dana Air. Those two, Dana was perhaps one of the longest, or an Aero. They've been around for a long time, but we saw the two of them, a couple of months ago, unable to fly their wings high along the Nigerian Airways. Why? Because of so many factors: policies, management, cost, aviation fuel. We have even seen the president of, maybe the chairman of operators of commercial airline in Nigeria have come to speak to Nigeria. We have seen his presentation when he was talking to the National Assembly about the challenges that sector is faced. The question is, will a national carrier help solve our problem, or will it add to it? We have also seen that some of the workers in the last, the defunct National Nigerian Air, for a long time, pension and gratuity were not paid. What will be the model of this? Will it be another agency of government, or will it be an airline that is using a national name, but it's going to be operated purely and solely by private sector?
That is where I'll take my next question from, because Ethiopian Airlines is the largest aviation group in Africa, and if you look at their figures, they are doing pretty well. With a net profit of about 937 million in Naira, and of course $5 billion revenue, about 79% growth in 2020-2021 when the airline marked its 76th anniversary. What do you think this airline is doing differently that has made it stand out in Africa? Can that be replicated here one way or the other?
Well, this airline has seen beyond just flying. They've looked at what other airlines are doing globally, and they were willing to be a global player. You see, they have also seen that what grows country is trust and faith in that economy, in that sector, whether it is owned by government or private sector. For ours, when you see that this is owned by government, starting with jobs, it becomes who knows who, rather than building based on competence, based on capacity and integrity. Unfortunately, when you fly in the air, you don't check the pilot, whether it's from your tribe or it practices your religion or not. What is important is the capacity and the ability of the pilot to land the plane safely, to fly the plane from one point or the other, and everything that took off will also land the same way. So, but that is not the situation in our environment, and that is why I am a bit skeptical. If this will be owned by government or run by government, certainly there will be several influences from the National Assembly, from executive, so many influences here and there. But if it is private sector owned, just reduce government influence to shares, then we can say truly we have an airline that in a matter of decades can compete with the rest of the world. But if it is not done that way, I'm sorry. When you look at Emirates, owned by the that origin from the United Arab Emirates, you will see that the Emirates airline are run by private sector individuals. Even though they use government name, the model is purely commercial in nature. You cannot say because you are government officials, you want to influence. They follow best practice all around the world, anywhere they go. And I also think that Nigerians can do it. I know and I'm aware that we have competent pilots, we have qualified pilots and engineers that can even maintain hangars. We have private hangar in Lagos now, and quite a number of, in few other places, that we have qualified individuals to maintain. We have pilots that are qualified that are Nigerians. With the influence of government reduce, such that government will play that regulatory role and allow those that can compete to operate in the business. And for price, government will need to do something which is beyond the control of the entire sector, which is how do we save the soul of Naira? Now, the last time I spoke with you on this show, I spoke in Abuja, I remember very clearly, that one of the challenges we saw around subsidy is because of devaluation of Naira. If Naira were to be what it was 2015, would we say Nigerians are truly paying subsidy? What are we paying for in the real sense? Again, the role of government is to ensure stability of price, whether foreign exchange or whether inflation. The role of government is to ensure price is stable. And I'm afraid, can I say that it is stable as of today? The answer will be a big no.
Issues bedeviling this sector, and one is scarcity of FX, of course, and the aviation fuel saga. Can you hear me, Mr. Laje?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I'm talking about the aviation fuel scarcity. On the high side, its price has gone up by about 200, 300% in some cases. And of course, some airlines are unable to repatriate funds to their country, and some are even pulling out of Nigeria already. How do you see us addressing some of these issues? Because you've talked about the major challenges bedeviling this sector, if that is the solution. But let's look at these two issues. How can we trash it out?
First of all, government must guarantee that those who have fund in Nigeria are able to get their fund. That is how trust could be built. I understand Central Bank is doing a lot regarding the exchange rate stability, but we have seen new energy in Ghana, where those who are operating illegal BDC have been arrested by government in Ghana. What stops Nigeria from finding out where our crises are coming from? Because whether we like it or not, we can say official rate is 470 or 430. The question is, are we able to buy fuel? Is Central Bank willing and able to demand? Because demand itself is a function of ability and willingness. Is Central Bank willing and able to back Naira with the demand for foreign goods, which includes spare parts for aviation, which includes aviation fuel and other materials that may be needed, because they are not produced locally? The truth is that Nigeria cannot produce everything. We can produce some things, even in economies. We cannot produce everything we need. We have to depend on the rest of the world for some things. But we should apply the concept of comparative cost advantage. This is not there at the moment. Even in areas where we have crude oil, nearly more than half of the crude oil we produce, according to authority, have been stolen. So where will the FS come from? The truth is, authority must perform the roles that are very critical for the growth and development of this country. Some of the fuel that has been stolen are FX that are not getting to the covers of Central Bank of Nigeria. Then how will the government be able to defend Naira when there is need for us to do that? Again, Central Bank moved Naira away a couple of years, not a couple of years, again, around 2015 or 2016, from what we used to have, which is fixed rate. You recall that the former Central Bank governor stood his ground that he will not move Naira from fixed rate to floating rate. I recall very carefully, Mr. Emefiele made strong argument in 2015 and later in 2016. And I also noticed that President Buhari made the same presentation when he spoke with media. And I think one of your correspondents was available at that presentation, where he said he will listen to the advice coming from Central Bank Governor or the then Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, regarding the economy, because obviously the president is not an economist. And what was the summation as at then? They will stay with the Naira. they will ensure they grow exports so that Naira will have a lot of cushion to defend whatever demand may be placed on it. The story has changed today. Today, what is FDI? FDI has consistently nosedived, according to the report shared by the National Bureau of Statistics. That on one hand. Again, we've continued to see continuous demand on dollar, and Naira is finding it challenging to defend. We have also seen that most of the defense we've seen are coming past from remittances from abroad, the crude oil part of which has been stolen, and maybe borrowings that is coming in hard currency for government. The truth is that we need to do more. The world seems not to be having faith in Naira, and when people lose faith in you, the real meaning is that the value of such currency is going down. What government must do today, which will not just affect the aviation sector, it will affect the entire oil sector, it will affect the job market, it will affect foreign direct investment, will be, what must we do to save the soul of Naira? What must we do to boost the earning power of Naira? Anybody that earned 100 or 200,000 Naira last year and is still earning the same thing today is already losing money for committing no crime. Why? Because when you go to the market to buy anything, whether local or foreign, because the person you are buying local rice from must have bought diesel from 300 to 830, and it will put up, it will increase the price of cost of production, and that's cost puts inflation, by the way. So whatever we do, we need to start from this moment today. How do we save the soul of Naira? And the answers are clear, at least two broad answers. How do we promote exports? Export promotion and substitute for import. Government needs to look at our import bills and also what we're exporting. Which of these can we save first? Which of these can we help and we improve first? Especially the issue of export. How do we help more Nigerians to export most of the things they are producing locally, whether it's agro produce or whether it is finished product, whether it is refined product? How do we add more value so that the target of central bank, $200 billion repatriation of funds, can come in earnest time, and we will go beyond having a foreign reserve that is more of commodity than cash?
Mr. Lade, before I let you go, I would ask you two in one question to wrap up this segment of the show. And the first would be, can we briefly highlight the positives of having a national carrier if that really happens and we follow to the latter? Many are worried that Ethiopian Air being an African airline, there might be some issues of interest. Well, they are just saying their mind. Those are analysts bearing their minds. Then the second question will be, do you think there is need for subsidy for aviation fuel?
Well, I will start with the second one. I think there is need. Go to Burkina Faso. Aviation sector has been significantly helped. Go to Rwanda. Aviation sector has been significantly helped. Go to Ivory Coast. Quite a number of countries in Africa know that because Africa has a weak position of defense, 4 billion naira is a promise of government. Whether that has been fully disbursed, I want to assume for the sake of this conversation that government has fully disbursed 4 billion naira. Convert that to the dollar, either at parallel market rate or at official rate. How much can it buy when Nigerian airlines are competing with the rest of the world? Two, even if it is not called the national carrier, let's use one of the major carriers. I don't want to mention him, at least the one that I've seen that have been trying to fly all around the world. Can we come up with policy that will enable those that are flying domestic airline, even if we have major, for them to start flying international routes as well? That will also enable our carrier to have access to FX outside our markets. The truth is that beyond having business locally, we need to operate in other territories. This is what we are buying, whether they are in our country or not, whether other countries are in our country or not, we are buying from them, and by implication, we will keep demanding for the US dollars. Again, what can we do to make us earn US dollar, whether we are in their country or we are producing what they will buy? It's either we go put establishment in those countries and we are making money back to Nigeria, or for the sake of this conversation, aviation sector, we now have more national carrier who can go to different parts of the world, and whatever is happening to dollar, we can also repatriate to the country of origin, in this case, Nigeria. There are a lot of benefits, to answer your first question, a lot of benefits and a few concerns. We are going to see jobs come up immediately. You are also going to see, it's also useful or good for our national morale or national pride that we have a national carrier. It is called the Nigerian Airways, like Ethiopian, like the Emirates. We also have something that we can be proud of. But you can see so many countries, they don't really name it their name. What is important is not in the name, it's not in the nomenclature. What is important is the operation, the influence, and the ease of operating business in the aviation sector. So the benefits are enormous, but if we put it around politics, I'm afraid, and you can show me what we've gotten right with political influence, and I will show you figure zero, that we have not been able to get anything right when political influence is introduced. But when we are allowed to run this business commercially, and we are allowed to run it free and fair, and every operator can have access to the same information, then we can see fair competition and growth within the economy.
I must thank you so much. I've been speaking to Mr. Paul Alaje, is a partner and senior economist with SPM Professionals. Thank you so much for joining us from our Abuja studios. It's always nice having you on the show.
Thank you so very much for having me.